in TMIC. I've been with TMIC for 5 years now, so I started back in January of 2019. And then for my presentation today, I'm going to be talking about the science behind coffee. So coffee itself is made up of over 1,000 different chemical compounds. Obviously, everyone knows about the main one, caffeine. I'm sure we all appreciate that on a Monday morning. But it also has vitamins in it and other chemicals that contribute to both the flavor, aroma, as well as protectionary components for the plant when it is growing. The main focus of my presentation, though, is going to be on the roasting of coffee. So a lot of us aren't used to seeing coffee in its main form when it's growing. So as you can see on the photo on the far left, that's what the coffee beans start out as. Obviously, they would not be very tasty at that stage, so we often roast them to get to the flavor components that we like in coffee. So the coffee roasting process is composed of 3 main components. So the very first step is the drying of the beans. So this is done to preserve the quality of the coffee. It is actually the only process component that doesn't improve the quality of the coffee. So pretty much what happens is with the beans that you pick, this will not have any way to improve the quality of the coffee. You're just trying to make sure that you aren't losing any of the components. There are 2 main methods for drying coffee. The traditional method is using air dry. So you're basically just laying out these coffee beans flat outside and using the sun to dry them. This was the traditional way. And then the more modern method is to actually use mechanical drying. So you would use tumblers that you can apply heat to. Although these look 2 very different methods, they are there to do the same thing. So they're there to reduce the moisture content of the coffee beans. So you're going from about 50% down to 12%. The traditional method, unfortunately, does take a very long time to do. So it takes between 10 and 14 days for the drying to be complete. And this is a lot of time for the beans to be exposed, not only to the weather, but also potential insects and pests that can affect and destroy the coffee. People have definitely started moving towards the mechanical drying aspect. The biggest issue with this is actually the startup cost. So a lot of coffee production is done in lesser developed countries, and the cost to get these components set up is often a deciding factor that affects their ability to do so. Once you are done drying the beans using either of these methods, you then proceed to the second step. So the second step of the roasting components is called browning. And this is where we really start seeing the true coffee roasting begin. So the browning aspect, you are heating the beans up to 160 degrees Celsius. And this is where the flavors of the coffee beans are able to be developed and enhanced. For this stage, the main focus of this is the Maillard reaction. So this is the stage where what people typically associated with cooking a food. So you are applying these reactions to cause a lot of different chemicals to be developed and reacted with. This is where a lot of the flavor and aroma comes from. So depending on how long you do this process, you're able to distinguish between which flavors you would like to develop and which ones you are trying to avoid. Along with this reaction, this leads us into the third step, which is called the development stage. During this stage, you are developing aroma compounds, as well as the flavor compounds that you can expand. This stage is also where you start differentiating between light, medium, and dark roast coffees. One interesting aspect about this is that it's not only the total length of time that you're doing the roasting, but also the amount of time that you're able to stay at each stage. For example, if you roast fast, which is to say that you will go through this process quickly, you might get a lot of the desired compounds and you will maintain a lot of them, but then you risk burning the beans. I don't know if anyone has ever tasted actual burnt coffee, but I'm sure no one would want to experience that first thing in the morning. This is also when you are able to develop the aroma compounds more. And the longer that you stay at stage, the more that you will develop them. So that's it for the science. And now I just want to take some time to talk about some of the coffee roasters that are present in the city. So the first one I'm going to talk about is Transcend Coffee. It's one of the original specialty coffee roasters in the city. It was founded in 2006, but it wasn't actually founded as a coffee roaster at the stage. The owner developed it to expand Edmonton's coffee scene. So he used this to do a lot of course facilitating with tasting courses. He would also demonstrate the roasting process using very small batches and actually doing it on an oven. They didn't actually open their first roastery until 2011. And since then, they've expanded to 3 different locations, although one recently closed. I'm sure a lot of you have seen it on the corner of 109th. And they get their coffee from Costa Rica, Panama, and El Salvador. The owner actually treats, or he would actually work directly with the farmers in those places since the beginning to try and make sure that the products that they get are both sustainable and high quality. The second coffee roaster I want to talk about is Ace Coffee. They were founded in 2017, and although all 3 of their main locations are located in central Edmonton, they're actually one of the most prominent coffee roasters in the city. There's a lot of restaurants and bistros that Ace Coffee is the supplier for it, and I'm sure a lot of you that have got coffee throughout the city would have experienced having Ace Coffee, even if it wasn't from them directly. They primarily obtain all their coffee beans from Mexico and South America, including Panama, El Salvador, and Honduras. And then for the last one I want to talk about, it doesn't have a physical location where you can experience the coffee brew itself, but it's called Catfish Coffee. It was founded in 2008, and it focuses on being a small batch coffee roaster. The only place that they actually sell their coffee beans, besides online, is at the Old Strathcona Farmers Market. And they're unique in the city in that they actually obtain their coffee beans from both South America and Africa, whereas most of the other places focus primarily on Central and South America. Yeah. That's it for my presentation today. Thank you. And if anyone has any questions, feel free.
Thanks.